Depending on who you ask, Rafael Nadal is a lot of things. To some people, he's the king of clay, and to others, he's Spain's raging bull. But no matter who he is to you, one thing is for sure, Nadal isn't just a winner, he's also in the business of humiliating his opponent. These are 10 times Rafael Nadal humiliated his opponent. And first, we've got to start with this guy that pushed Nadal to his very first 5-set match at the French Open. At number 10, John Isner at the French Open 2011. Back in 2011, John Isner became the first man to ever take Nadal to a 5th set in Paris. In fact, the last time Nadal had lost a set at Roland Garros was against Robin Soderling in 2009. So yeah, this match was one hell of a big deal. It all started with Nadal giving Isner a 6-4 lead in the first set. But in the next 2 sets, the American shocked the world and made a 6-7 comeback. But wait, Nadal wasn't about to let a rookie steal his show. And that's when the King of Clay knew that he had to take this rookie to school. So he cranked up the volume of his game and blasted Isner off the court in the following 2 sets, sealing the deal with a 6-2, 6-4 scoreboard. Okay, well, maybe Nadal didn't exactly make Isner feel like a middle schooler at prom, because the kid put up a good fight that would make gladiators proud. But hey, in tennis, you either win or you lose. It's a simple binary code. And Isner found himself on the wrong side of that code on his French Open debut. Nadal, on the other hand, took on a guy over 7 years older at his French Open debut back in 2005 and showed him who's boss. And that guy is number 9, Mariano Puerta at the French Open Finals 2005. Now, making it to the finals of your first Grand Slam debut? That's insane. But what's even crazier is winning a Grand Slam on your first try. And that is exactly what 19-year-old Nadal did when he faced off against 26-year-old Mariano Puerta in a heated 3-set battle. Nadal stumbled in the opening set because it was like he was testing the waters, or in this case, the red clay. But the King of Clay would go on to show the world that he was unstoppable in the next 2 sets. The showdown lasted for a whopping 3 hours and 24 minutes. If you think about it, that's like binge-watching an epic tennis saga, complete with plot twists and cliffhangers. And when the dust settled, when the clay had witnessed its latest triumph, Nadal snatched the trophy with a score of 6-3, 6-1, 7-5. He literally bullied his senior in the second set. Damn, that must have been tough. But do you want to know what's more humiliating than getting trashed by a 19-year-old? Getting schooled by a 16-year-old. And that's exactly what happened to this French Open winner. Coming in at number 8, Albert Costa at the French Open 2003. You see, after winning his first round match against Carol Kucera, a 16-year-old Nadal had to face off against French Open defending champion Albert Costa in the second round. Now, a lot of people already knew what the result would be, considering the fact that Albert bagged the trophy the previous year. But Costa didn't even know what was about to hit him, because the day before, he told reporters that he was very confident about the match. But Nadal? The Spaniard had other plans. Because how the heck do you explain how a 16-year-old kid trashed a Grand Slam champion almost twice his age in just 2 rounds? And with a score like 7-5, 6-3. Talk about humiliation in capital letters. But at least Costa managed to get more than 5 points. I wish we could say the same for this next guy though. At number 7, Jeremy Chardy at the Italian Open 2019. Now, back in 2019, Nadal faced off French player Jeremy Chardy in the second round of the Italian Open. And for the King of Clay, it was just a stroll in the park. But on the other hand, it was Jeremy's worst nightmare. Because in less than an hour, the Spaniard had comfortably broke his French opponent 3 times in the first set and twice in the second, to record a victory of 6-0, 6-1. Now that was just disrespectfully humiliating. And speaking of disrespect, this next guy tried to pull a fast one on Nadal, but ended up getting the toughest match of his career. That guy is number 6, Nick Kyrgios at Wimbledon 2019. Now, everyone knows that Nadal and Kyrgios are technically sworn enemies, and it all started back in 2019, when Kyrgios complained to the umpire about how long it was taking Nadal to serve. And when the umpire did nothing about it, the tennis bad boy took it upon himself to punish Nadal with a trick shot that had Nadal furious after losing the match. It was so bad that Nick called Nadal an idiot, so the King of Clay knew that he had to teach the tennis bad boy a lesson. And what better way to do that than to humiliate him on the court the next time they crossed paths? Luckily for Nadal, that time was just 5 months later in the grass of Wimbledon. The match ended with a scoreline of 6-3, 3-6, 7-6, 7-6, with Nadal coming out on top. And even though Kyrgios managed to take the next round, he still didn't stand a chance. And you know who else didn't stand a chance? This guy. At number 5, Fernando Verdasco at the Italian Open 2019. I mean, the match didn't even last 2 hours, but Nadal completely bageled Verdasco in the set of the Italian Open back in 2019. You see, just a week before the match, Nadal got tossed in the Madrid Open semis by Tsitsipas. And oh boy, Rafa was steaming like a runaway espresso machine. The King of Clay had just had his crown messed with, and he just had to let out his frustration somehow. And now you know who's boss. At number 4, Guillermo Coria at the Rome Masters 2005. I mean, it takes an insane amount of boss genes to go head-to-head with a full-blown pro and still come out undefeated. The year was 2005, and the stage was the Rome Masters. In fact, just a few weeks before the Rome showdown, Nadal snagged the title at the Rolex Monte Carlo Masters. And guess what? He became the second youngest champ in the series' history. So a lot of folks couldn't wait to see how the Rome finals would turn out. But unlike his previous match, Nadal found himself in the hot seat this time. Coria was no stranger to clay court supremacy, so he did a terrific job pushing Nadal to the edge. But when the dust settled, Nadal showed his trademark fighting spirit, with a scoreline of 6-4, 3-6, 6-3, 4-6, 7-6. And the craziest part? He did all of that while nursing an injury. But if there's one thing more humiliating than losing and getting schooled by a teenager, it has to be this. At number 3, Stefanos Tsitsipas at the Australian Open 2019. You see, back in 2019, Stefanos took the tennis world by storm when he knocked Roger Federer out of the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. For the Greek, it kind of meant that he had a shot at making it to the finals. After all, he had just knocked out one of the biggest players in tennis history. The only problem was, to get to the finals, he had to go through one guy, and that guy was none other than the King of Clay himself. And how did that turn out? Well, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that that match gave Tsitsipas nightmares. Because the Greek earned just a single breakpoint throughout the entire match. Damn! The match ended with a scoreline of 2-6, 4-6, 0-6. And even Tsitsipas couldn't hold back how traumatizing it was. During the post-match interview, our guy was so baffled that he said this.
I wouldn't say I was serving very well. As I said before, just has a talent not to make you play bad. That's it.
Now that must have been hard to deal with. But hey, if there's one thing you have to love about Nadal's humiliation game, it's that even the biggest players get their own share of the pie. Like that time Nadal trashed Novak Djokovic in the finals of the 2020 French Open. At number 2, Novak Djokovic at the French Open 2020. I mean, how do you explain that two of the best players in the men's game traded shots for 45 whole minutes? And yet Nadal bageled Djokovic, who was the world number 1 at the time, 6-0 at the end of the first set. Now, you know Djokovic. The guy is a fighter on a good day. But for some reason, he completely lost his strength to fight in this match, because the next 2 sets were absolutely nothing to write home about. By the end of the match, Nadal had our boy Novak crying for help, with a scoreline of 6-1, 7-5. Ouch! But you know what's even more humiliating? Watching Nadal do the same thing to our Swiss goat back in 2008. Coming in at number 1, Roger Federer at the French Open 2008. Let's be real, if there's anyone that can testify in favor of how much of a beast Nadal is on the clay, then you can bet $1 million that it's Roger Federer. Because back in '08, Roger experienced firsthand what it feels like to face Nadal's wrath while he's in Borg mode. Get this, Nadal didn't just defeat Federer, he completely destroyed the Swiss world number 1 at the time with a scoreline of 6-1, 6-3, 6-0 to win his 4th French Open in a row. Now, if we're being honest, that has got to be the most humiliating defeat Federer has ever faced in his entire career. So there you have it, folks, and now you know why he's called the King of Clay. Which of these moments stood out for you? Let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to learn more interesting things about your favorite tennis players.